Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Victim's Voice. This week's episode is another out of Indiana. A mother is fighting for justice for her son, and it's evident, as you will see, that law enforcement did not do their job and has left the family still fighting for answers. This is the story of Alex Blake VanDalsen. On February 3rd, 2021, at 11:44 p.m., when most people were in bed sleeping, Alex VanDalsen walked out of his house in the 500 block of South 600 East in Lafayette, Indiana. His home security camera caught him walking down his driveway, past his Subaru, and eventually off screen. That would be the last time Alex was seen alive. When Alex was eventually found 10 miles from home, dead, the family dealt with lies from the authorities and no real answers, leaving a family still wondering to this day what happened to Alex. Alex VanDalsen was a trans man who was born Jasmine Mackenzie Danaher on December 20th, 1999, to Jennifer VanDalsen and James Danaher of Lafayette, Indiana. At the time of his death, he was in the process of transitioning. So in this episode, I will honor what he chose as his name and refer to him as Alex. Alex graduated from McCutcheon High School when he was 18. He stayed mostly to himself in school, but had his group of people that he trusted and would do anything for. He had been looking into colleges, but wasn't sure just yet what he wanted to do with his life. He and his girlfriend of 5 months, Genesis, had talked recently about doing some traveling before beginning to make those hard adult decisions. He had 3 siblings, a younger sister, Morgan Danaher, and an older sister, Kirsten Hamden, and an older brother, James Dillsworth Jr. He and his siblings fought in their younger years like most siblings do, but as they got older, they really had each other's backs. The past couple of years before his death, they had all gotten extremely close. Alex was a very adventurous kid, according to his mom. He was the kid that she always had to watch because he wasn't scared to try anything. Alex had a big heart. He was loving, kind, and overly trusting of people. He would give someone his last dollar if he thought it would help. He made a huge impact on everyone he met. Even if he was going through something, he would always try to make people laugh and smile. He loved taking walks down the country roads in the area, watching movies, looking at old cars and trucks, hiking, roller skating, and just watching the sky. He was passionate about his music and loved to sing, dance, and make TikTok videos. Alex's mom and biological father split up when he was 12 or 13. For a lot of kids, this would have been hard, but Jennifer's children had seen what their dad had put their mom through. They had always had a rocky relationship filled with fighting and abuse. The house was always filled with chaos. The kids only wished she would have left him sooner so that she could find peace and happiness. When Alex was 18, he came out to his parents as a lesbian. A short time later, he realized he was trans. His mom was very supportive and told Alex she would help him with the transition in any way she could, and even suggested they check with her insurance and see what procedures it would cover. Alex was very independent, though, and wanted to pay for it himself. Most of Alex's friends and family were also supportive of him. His main supporters were his mother, his girlfriend Genesis, and his best friend Cassandra. They loved Alex and would have done anything for him. The very few who weren't, Alex cut from his life. One of those being his biological dad. This really didn't bother Alex since they did not have much of a relationship anyway. Alex did his best not to let negative people affect him. According to Genesis, Alex had struggled with bipolar and depression since middle school, but she never thought he was suicidal. He had sought out counseling but said it didn't really help and quit going after a week. He was prescribed medications also, but they made him feel funny, so he didn't take them consistently. Jennifer said from her perspective, Alex always seemed happy. If he was bullied at school, he never mentioned it to her. He ignored bullies and negative people. They were not important to him. In the months leading up to his death, it seemed that Alex had actually gained more confidence in himself. Alex was planning for his future. He and Genesis seemed really happy together, and Alex was even looking at rings. He was getting ready to start a new job also. Things seemed to be going really well in Alex's life. That's why what happened to him doesn't make any sense. The days leading up to that fateful day were normal. On February 1st, Alex was at Genesis' house, but she had left for work, so Alex called his mom for a ride. She could have picked him up and brought him home and still made it to work on time, but she decided to take the day off and hang out with Alex and his younger sister Morgan. Alex was meeting Genesis after she got off of work, so Alex, his mom, and Morgan ran around for a couple of hours until it was time to meet her. On February 2nd, Alex and Morgan volunteered to go do some grocery shopping for their older sister Kirsten. She had small children at home and it was cold and snowing, so they wanted to help her out. After they got back from the store, they stayed at Kirsten's house for a couple of hours and played with their niece and nephew. There was nothing unusual that had happened. On February 3rd, the day started out like any other. Jennifer and James worked the afternoon shift at the Subaru plant and had to be there at 3 p.m. Alex and Morgan hung out at home that day. Alex was supposed to start his job that evening at 350 Liquors in Lafayette. He had to be there at 9:30 p.m. He left and went there, but he was back home an hour later and told his sister Morgan that his paperwork was not ready yet, so he was unable to start that night. Alex told his sister good night and went to his room. Morgan thought he had went to bed. She did not know that an hour later, at 11:44 p.m., Alex walked out the door of his home and down the driveway past his vehicle. Surveillance video shows him on foot walking southbound on South 600th Street East. He then walked out of the view of the camera. This would be the last image Alex's family had of him alive. When Alex's parents returned home from work that evening, they seen Alex's car in the driveway and his bedroom door closed, so they assumed he was sleeping. They went to bed not realizing their world was going to come crashing down on them in the days to come. The next morning, the family woke up and Jennifer opened Alex's door to tell him good morning, but Alex wasn't there. Jennifer still didn't realize anything was wrong. She assumed that Genesis had come to pick up Alex before she had gotten up. It was normal for Alex to leave his car at home and for them to just take one car wherever they went, since Genesis lived in Attica, about 20 miles away. The family went about their day. Alex's parents didn't think anything was out of the ordinary when they didn't see Alex before they left for their afternoon shift at work. Just 1 hour after getting there, however, around 4 p.m., they received a phone call that would change everything. It was Genesis. She said she and Alex were supposed to hang out that day, and she couldn't find him anywhere. She had called and texted him repeatedly and checked with some of his friends, but no one had seen him. Jennifer and her husband rushed home to help try to locate him. Jennifer checked Alex's room to see if there were any clues as to where he could be. She found that he had left his wallet, keys, and phone behind. He also left behind his inhaler, which he needed on a regular basis. After glancing around the rest of the room, she also found a note on Alex's desk. This is what it said. Please give back to Genesis her boxers, her journal, house key, bracelet, anything else she has here. Genesis' phone number was written 3 times on the note. That is all it said. No explanation, nothing. Him and Genesis had not been fighting, according to her. Everything had been fine between them. Jennifer called around to his friends, but no one had seen him in the last 24 hours. Genesis told Jennifer the last time she had talked to Alex was the night before at 7:14 p.m. The two had agreed to meet up the next day and hang out. Alex had also sent a text to Genesis telling her how much he had missed her lately. She said she had no clue where he would go or who he would go with. The closest place to the house to walk to was a gas station, and it was still 5 miles away. Alex couldn't walk anywhere if he didn't have his inhaler with him. Jennifer drove around looking for Alex in places he would have gone by himself. She started with a park that Alex liked to go to and the cemetery where Alex's grandfather was buried. She knew he went there at least 2 or 3 times a week, but he was at neither place. With no luck, Jennifer called the Lafayette Police Department and told them her son was missing. She called them at 10 p.m. They said they would send an officer. At around 11:45 p.m., when no one had shown up yet, she called them back. They finally arrived at her house a little after midnight. When they got there, they took the report. She told them that he had left all of his personal belongings behind, including his medication. However, a silver alert was never issued. She also showed them the note she had found. They said they didn't think it was of any significance. They didn't ask many questions about Alex. In fact, they really didn't act concerned at all. While waiting for the city and county police to start searching, the family continued searching on their own. They spent hours each day looking for Alex. Within a few days, the whole community was searching every inch of Lafayette and the surrounding areas. Jennifer was overwhelmed by how much the community jumped in to help look for her son. Parents were even sending their kids out on four-wheelers to look in the fields and wooded areas. Do you know who didn't participate in any searches? The police. They had done nothing since taking the initial report. One of Jennifer's coworkers told her of a search and rescue dog handler that they knew named Janet Winslow. She was a former West Lafayette police officer who had retired in 2018. She contacted the sheriff's department and they sent out 2 sheriff's deputies to assist with the search. One of the deputies had been at the house on a prior occasion to do a welfare check on Alex. He started questioning Jennifer about the outcome of the prior incident, saying that if he knew the outcome of that incident, then it might help to know where Alex was, since the same thing had happened before. According to Jennifer, yes, there had been a wellness check done before, but it was under totally different circumstances. Alex had never gone missing in the past. When they had come to check on him before, both Jennifer and Alex were at home. He had overslept and missed a counseling appointment. That was a totally different situation. Jennifer said the deputy was very rude and didn't seem to want to help her find her son. She didn't know if it was because he had been the responding officer in the past or if it was because Alex was trans, or maybe both. Supposedly, the authorities attempted to search, but then called off the search, saying that they weren't prepared for a cold weather search. We are talking about Indiana, not Florida or Texas or somewhere that the weather being cold and snowy is unusual or doesn't happen at all. How are they not prepared for a cold weather search? Indiana is always cold in February. It seems like an excuse to me. This is when Janet decided to reach out to Sean Hannity, who had a thermal imaging drone. He agreed to come and help. The family, Janet Winslow and her search and rescue dog, and Hannity with his drone searched a 5-mile radius around the house. Janet's dog tracked Alex's scent down the street to the main intersection, but then the trail was lost. This could mean that Alex had gotten into a car at that point, but it also could just be because it had been almost 48 hours since Alex went missing, and with all the snow and ice, the scent had faded. These dogs get the best scents within 24 hours of the person going missing. Jennifer later found out that the police could have sent out a dog to track his scent early on, and also could have acquired a drone to help in the search. They did neither. They lost at least 18 hours because of the police not informing them of all the resources available to help find missing persons. The officers didn't seem interested in helping the family find Alex or even leading them in the direction of what to do next. A detective was finally assigned to the case on February 8th, 5 days after Alex went missing. Detective Tislow made contact with Jennifer and said he was playing catch-up and she would hear from him again. He came out and met with Jennifer, her husband, and Genesis on the morning of February 9th, after they had waited several hours for him to show up. He asked Jennifer if she had any new leads. Isn't it his job to find leads and follow them since he is the detective? Anyway, he also asked if they had any additional information that would be helpful in assisting them to locate Alex. Jennifer said she had no new information or leads, but she did give Detective Tislow screenshots of the map locations that had already been searched by the Family Community Search and Rescue Canine and the drone operator. She also gave him a missing persons flyer she had made up with a description of Alex on it and photographs. He took some background information on Alex, which was what the first officer had already done the day he went missing, and told Jennifer if anything new came to mind, let him know, and he left. The next day, on February 9th, 2021, Detective Tislow arrived at the VanDalsen home to give the family the heartbreaking news. He told Jennifer and Genesis that Alex's body had been found and it was confirmed he was deceased. He told them that he had no ID on him, so he showed them a picture of the rose tattoo that was on his right hand. Jennifer and Genesis both confirmed that this was Alex. The pain that they felt at that moment is indescribable. Genesis locked herself in Alex's room for the next month and mourned. Jennifer wanted answers. When Jennifer asked the detective how her son died, he told her there were no visible signs of trauma, and they would have to wait for the autopsy to be completed. He stated this at least 4 times while standing in Jennifer's living room. 4 different people heard him say it. Alex's grandma asked if he had froze to death, and the detective said no. How did he know that if there were no signs of trauma and no autopsy yet? Jennifer called the funeral home to make arrangements for Alex's services. She called Solar Baker Funeral Home of Lafayette, as the owners were neighbors of her parents for years. They had watched all of Jennifer's kids grow up. She told the funeral home what she had been told by the detective about there being no visible trauma on Alex, so they picked out a casket and liner that fit with that narrative. That following Saturday morning, February 13th, Jennifer got a call from the funeral home director. He said they had some issues. He asked her once again what she had been told about Alex's death. She told him once again what she was told. No visible signs of trauma. The funeral director then said, quote, "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have to be the one to tell you this, but it can't get more obvious. Alex has a gunshot wound to his head, and we're going to need to pick a different casket and a different liner." End quote. Jennifer was speechless. Why would they lie to her? They had to have known that she would eventually find out. Frank said he was going to call the coroner and the police department. Frank was the funeral director, as he should not have been the one to notify the family. As if having to pick out a casket and liner for your child isn't bad enough, Jennifer had to go through the agony a second time because of being lied to by the detective. At first, she gave authorities the benefit of the doubt and thought maybe they were just keeping his cause of death close to the vest because they were investigating. She was soon going to find out that that was not the case at all. The following Monday, February 15th, she called Detective Tislow and asked him why he had lied to her. His answer was that he didn't recall saying that and that he wasn't trying to mislead her. 4 times in front of 4 people, he told her that there were no signs of trauma, but now he doesn't remember saying it. He also said he was only passing along what information was given to him by Lafayette police, since they were the ones that were on scene. However, come to find out, Detective Tislow was also on scene. He also told Jennifer that there was a 9mm gun found at the scene. This was the first time a gun was ever mentioned. This was only the first of many lies and misleading information from law enforcement. After the funeral, Jennifer reached out to Detective Tislow, wanting to know what they had found during their investigation. She was a mom who wanted answers. Who would have killed her son and why? He told her he was still investigating. However, when she received the reports on March 1st, 2021, It said differently. He claimed in the reports that he was done with the case after he notified Jennifer that Alex had been found, and it was up to the city police to investigate any further. No one ever told Jennifer or her family any outcome of any investigation or details about how he was found. 2 weeks later, when she tried to get the reports from the county, they told her it was still open and they were waiting for the autopsy report. They tried to tell Jennifer it wasn't complete yet. However, she had a copy of it already that she had gotten on March 1st. She offered to send it to the detective, and he declined. When Jennifer started looking at what the police had wrote in reports and at body cam footage, they started finding more and more holes in the story and a lot of things they were never informed of. Jennifer found many discrepancies and outright lies as she read through all of the reports. This is when she also learned that they were calling Alex's death a suicide. No one had ever told her this was officially the manner of death. It seemed like the city police had started to investigate, but once Detective Tislow got assigned to the case and found out that Alex had mental health issues in the past, that's when it seemed any investigation came to a halt and it was ruled suicide, even though the family was led to believe they were still investigating. Once Detective Tislow slapped the suicide label on the case, they tried to change the narrative to fit that theory. On March 18, 2021, after getting the runaround from both the city police and the county, Jennifer was desperate for answers. She reached out to Sean Hannity, the man with the thermal imaging drone, and asked if there was anything else she should be doing. He offered to take the police reports and coroner's report that she had and send them to other professionals that he had worked with in similar cases. On March 19th, she emailed him the reports. On March 24th, he emailed Jennifer letting her know that he had received the reports and had already sent them out to other professionals and expected to hear back from them in a week or two. Jennifer never heard from him again. She contacted Janet Winslow, the search and rescue dog owner, to see if she had heard anything from Sean. She said she would call him and find out what was going on. Jennifer gave her 48 hours and then reached out to her again. There was no response from her either. Jennifer was starting to wonder if maybe the authorities had told them not to contact her anymore. They worked closely with police. In fact, the police usually called them in on cases, which provided them with a lot of work. So they obviously didn't want to do anything to jeopardize that relationship. They weren't the only ones that ghosted Jennifer. A journalist reached out a day or two after Alex was found and wanted to know why the police didn't report Alex missing to the local news stations. The family did reach out to the media, but got no response. Jennifer found out that the journalists have some sort of agreement with the police. They get their information from them, so they don't want to step on their toes. Another local journalist reached out to Jennifer and talked to her about doing a story on the mishandling of Alex's case by the police. Then all of a sudden, she quit contacting Jennifer. Jennifer also tried to get in contact with the park worker who found Alex. He refused to talk to her. Someone from the Purdue Exponent, the local paper that ran Alex's story, kept pushing for Jennifer to do an on-camera interview. At first, she told him she didn't know if she wanted to. A week or two later, she reached out to him and said she would do it. And imagine that, she got no response. Why were people backing away from speaking to Jennifer? Was someone whispering in their ear, telling them not to? It seemed anyone who depended on the police for their livelihood avoided speaking to Jennifer about Alex's case. In June of 2022, Jennifer received crime scene photos, autopsy photos, and body cam footage. Everything pointed to this not being a suicide. They wanted Jennifer to believe he walked 10 miles in 20-degree weather in a foot of snow to then turn around and kill himself. He was 5 feet tall and 90 pounds. He would have frozen before he got there. According to Jennifer, cold was not Alex's friend. He kept a heater running in his room year-round, keeping it around 95 degrees. He also wore the hoodie that he was found in year-round. Alex never walked anywhere. He would panic if he was without his vehicle for one day. Alex had asthma and couldn't even walk around the block without using his inhaler. He didn't have his inhaler with him that night. He also had not been dressed to walk 10 miles, which would have taken him around 3 hours. He left his house and was found wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt, black Chevy hoodie, a pair of jeans with sweatpants over them, and a beanie. Why wouldn't he have drove himself there in his car that he walked right past in the security footage? Lieutenant Tim Payne told Jennifer that it very well could be true that someone drove Alex to the location, and even if they did so knowing he would commit suicide, there would be nothing criminal to charge anyone with. Alex's family believes someone picked him up down the street from their house. This is the only logical explanation. Jennifer was also lied to about where Alex was found. They had told her he was found near the softball fields, but Jennifer used the scanner calls to figure out where he was really found. He was actually found at the end of a dead-end road, about a half a mile down an access road that some people in town called trails. That was in between two railroad tracks. Alex was found lying flat on his back with his hands in his hoodie pockets and his ankles crossed. In the body cam videos, the police officers could be heard saying, quote, "They've placed him here. He was killed somewhere else. That's my guess," end quote. Another officer says, "It looks like his hands are in his pockets." A third officer says, quote, how he was positioned was weird," end quote. The first officer goes back and tells the other officers, quote, "It looks like they have dumped him here. His legs are crossed and his arms are in his pockets," end quote. There is no possible way, I believe, that if you shoot yourself in the head that you would fall lying flat on your back with your ankles crossed and be able to put your hands in your hoodie pockets. None of it makes any sense as a suicide. 4 or 5 police officers walked around Alex several times. So much for not contaminating a crime scene. They said because of the snowfall, there weren't any footprints anyway. However, Dowdery, the park worker who found Alex, stated that he had noticed some indentation in the snow while plowing the trail, indicating that people may have been walking down in that area recently. There was never any mention of this by the officers. In fact, when the officers first arrived at the scene, they said they didn't even need to tape off the scene because it was so remote, and they just had an officer stationed at the beginning of the trail. They didn't treat this as a crime scene from the beginning, and most likely knew they had messed up, so everything after that was to cover their tracks. One officer was heard saying that there was no gun after walking around Alex several times. Eventually, they did find the gun, though. It was underneath Alex's right side, which is why they didn't find it right away. It was barely visible. How would the gun have gotten underneath him if he shot himself? This doesn't make much sense at all. There was no blood pooling or splatter found at the scene. Head wounds bleed a lot. If Alex was shot where he was found, there would have been a large amount of blood at the scene. There also was never a shell casing found at the scene. Authorities claim they even used a metal detector and never found anything. How is this even possible? Whether Alex or someone else shot him, there should have been a shell casing found. When Detective Tislow came to the house and had Jennifer ID Alex by a picture of a tattoo he had on his hand, he told her that he was found with no ID. This was also a lie. It was found out later that Alex did have his ID on him when he was found. Jennifer believes that after Detective Tislow realized who he was, that's when they decided to call it a suicide. She also found out from the reports that a full autopsy had not been done on Alex. Because his body had been frozen, they only performed an autopsy on his head. It seemed that they had already decided before the autopsy was started that they were calling it a suicide. If not, then why wouldn't they have let his body thaw out and do a full autopsy? The autopsy report stated that Alex had a fractured skull at the base of his spine. How did that happen? Falling to the ground wouldn't have caused that, and neither would a bullet through the temple. Blunt force trauma, however, would have caused that. The coroner's report and the autopsy report contradicted each other when it came to the bullet wounds in Alex's head. The coroner's report labeled the entrance wound being the wound on the left side of his head. It measured 1.5 times 1. The exit wound was on the right side, which measured 6.5 times 5. The autopsy report, however, stated the opposite. It said the entrance wound was on the right, which would have been the larger wound, and the exit wound was on the left, which would have been the smaller wound. How could the entrance wound be larger than the exit wound? It doesn't seem possible, especially with a 9mm gun. So let's talk about this gun that was found. Alex's hands were never checked for gunpowder residue. They stated that this process was outdated. The only thing the detective did was run the gun to see if it was reported stolen. They didn't check to see who the owner was. They knew it wasn't Alex's because Jennifer had told them all of the guns they had in their gun safe were accounted for. The gun they found under him had a very distinct look. It was black and pink camouflage. They didn't even check to see if it had been fired recently. Lafayette Lieutenant Tim Payne told Jennifer in an email on April 5th, 2021, that he would find out more information about the gun, quote, today or tomorrow. That day did not come until 17 months later. Jennifer and a reporter had repeatedly asked questions about the gun that was found under Alex. Finally, on July 11th, 2022, the truth came out. Lafayette Captain Joe Clyde called Cassandra Dick, Alex's best friend, on that day to reveal what had been discovered. Clyde told Cassandra that the gun found under Alex came back as belonging to her. She told him that her and her ex-wife had bought it together in 2020 and that she had taken it with her when she moved out. She said she had no idea how the gun would have gotten into Alex's hands, and this was the first that she had heard of the gun being involved in his death. Clyde said that they had known since a couple days after Alex's death who the gun belonged to, and that it was in the reports Jennifer had received. He stated, quote, Mom has always had this information in her packet. She just doesn't understand how to look at it, end quote. So is he trying to say Jennifer is not smart enough to know how to read a report? That's funny because she got the reports on March 1st, but as of April 5th, their lieutenant admitted they had not traced ownership of the gun. Clyde said the purchase record of the gun was included in the police reports initially shared with Jennifer, but the reports she shared with the media in November didn't include that document. When Clyde heard that, he tried to change his story around and said, quote, I won't completely say there's no way she doesn't have that document, end quote. I feel like that statement was very confusing with a double negative, but I think he was saying he can't say for certain that she does have it. He said he recently told Dick the gun was hers because Jennifer, quote, keeps asking questions, end quote. So he wanted Dick to be ready for when Jennifer learned the truth. Otherwise, he said, he would have never called. He said, quote, once we figured out it was, without a doubt, a suicide, does it matter? It doesn't. I can't think of any reason why knowing the owner would change the outcome. We are collecting information that isn't going to change any outcome ever, end quote. What? Is this guy serious? Of course it could change the outcome. Why would you not want to question the owner of the gun? There are all kinds of questions to ask that person. How did Alex get the gun? Was she there with him? Did she give him a ride that night? Also, it is known that Alex didn't get along with Cassandra's ex-wife, and she is the last known person to have possession of the gun. Why would they not question her? These police departments already decided in their minds that Alex committed suicide, so they were not going to go out of their way to investigate anything. Maybe they would find out that their theory was wrong, and that would make them look incompetent. Maybe they are just lazy detectives that don't want to do their job, or maybe they are transphobic. We can't be sure which it is, but one thing is for sure, that they failed Alex and his family. Also, there was a car abandoned on the side of the road around the corner from where Alex was found. While the police were there, a guy came walking up and said the car belonged to his girlfriend Candace, and she had gotten it stuck the night before at around 9:30 p.m. She had called him and he came out and tried to get the car out, but got stuck even more. This is when they decided to call a tow company to get them out, but they wouldn't go down that far out of fear of also getting stuck. So him and Candace left. While officers were there talking to this man, whose name was Jonathan, other officers went to the address that the car was registered at to talk to Candace. Her story was a little different than Jonathan's. She said when the car got stuck, Jonathan had been driving and she was the passenger. He had been looking for a secluded spot to smoke a joint when he drove back there and got stuck. She also mentioned a second car that had been stuck down there, which was never talked about or looked into. Officers also talked to the tow truck driver, and he said that he remembered it being during business hours that the car was stuck. A park worker corroborated his story and said around 11:30 a.m. he was flagged down by a female who told him her car was stuck. He told her that he couldn't use city vehicles to pull her out. Jonathan and Candace were taken to the station to give written statements, and although there are 3 conflicting stories about the car, nothing more was ever investigated in connection to the car or the couple. When Jennifer realized the police weren't going to help her, she started a Facebook page called Justice for Alex Blake VanDalsen. I encourage everyone to go join and follow Jennifer's journey in getting justice for her son. She was told in order to get the case reopened, she would need a bigger law firm than the one she had been speaking with and a private investigator to get the evidence needed to show how the departments were incompetent in Alex's case. She started a Change.org petition for police to reopen the investigation and a GoFundMe account to pay for a private investigator. I will share the links to these in the show notes and on my Facebook page. Recently, the Indiana State Police has started looking into Alex's case. He asked Jennifer which department was investigating, and she told them about how they were playing the blame game with each other. He called Lafayette first since Alex was found in their jurisdiction. They should have been the ones to investigate. They told him they really didn't have anything and that he should call county. He then called county. They willingly agreed to give him all they had. When he received it, he was not happy, to say the least. He had been played by Lafayette, just like they had been playing Jennifer for 2 years. He said that everything is pushed back right now because of his health and prior commitments. So Jennifer and her family still sit and wait. I also want to give a shout out to Pride Lafayette, a center for members of the LGBTQ community. They heard about Alex's story and stepped in and donated all they could, which almost completely paid for Alex's funeral. The president of Pride Lafayette, Ashley Smith, stated, quote, "Everyone and their brother wanted to hear about Gabby Petito, but you do not hear that when it's an LGBTQ person." The exponent was the only local media source that reported on Alex's case, with minimal information from the police. There are so many lies and discrepancies in Alex's case that I could go on for hours. It boils down to the city and county police trying to pass blame on each other, when in reality, they both did a horrible job. Did they have a problem because he was trans, or because he had a history of mental health struggles? No matter the outcome, his family deserves to know the truth of what happened. And when the authorities seem to do shady shit and not communicate with the family, it tends to make them seem untrustworthy and unbelievable, and like they are hiding something. You can help by signing Alex's petition on Change.org, join Justice for Alex Blake VanDalsen on Facebook, and share or donate to the GoFundMe that Jennifer has set up for a private investigator. I will include the links to all of those in the show notes and on the Victim's Voice Facebook page. And if anyone saw Alex after 11:44 p.m. on February 3rd, 2021, or has any information that might help in finding out what happened that night, please reach out to the Indiana State Police or even Jennifer herself. She and her family won't stop until Alex gets the justice he deserves.